Hi, this is Maria Mandarino. Thank you for being here, and I apologize for not being here the past week. It was a little bit of a busy week, and I actually began. Let me just click off my devices here. I began recording an episode and decided I didn't. I wasn't happy with it, so I ended up doing this a week late. And the whole episode changed as a result. So yeah, today we're going to talk about a little bit about the Enneagram, a little bit about astrology as it relates to all the Enneagram types, but we're going to focus on type 6 and what we can learn from type 6 in this Mercury retrograde, which is happening in Sagittarius. Before we jump into that, excuse me, I wanted to remind you to please, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we're inching ever so slowly, close to my goal of 500 subscribers through the end of this year. We just have a few more weeks left. So anything that you can do to either click that subscribe button or inspire other people that you know who care about the Enneagram or are interested in astrology and how it relates to the Enneagram. Inspire them to look into the channel and encourage them to subscribe. Please remember to like, comment, and share. All these things really help, not only help the algorithm, but really enrich people's experience of what they see on the channel, because information that comes through you, through your Enneagram type, I've said this before, I can speak to the didactic experience of the 9 types, but I can only speak authentically to my type and my wing and my lines and such. So beyond that, I can provide plenty of theory, but you guys are the ones with the unique insight. And today we are going to talk about qualities of type 6. So I want to put this up front right now. When I talk about qualities, a lot of the times I'm going to focus on the shadow because that's really the growth point. That's where we stand to improve things, make our lives better and richer. So please view this with an open mind and realize that when I'm talking about these qualities today, it's going to be mostly shadow that we're looking at, because again, that's where the growth point begins in the Enneagram. So I wanted to put that out there first. So type 6, let's start there. We call type 6 either the loyalist or the loyal skeptic. Loyalist, in that these are highly loyal people. Loyalty drives them, both in terms of they are loyal to you and they expect and rely upon the loyalty of others. And they're usually really awesome about assuming that others are loyal to them until something happens where they realize that loyalty or that trust was broken. And then there's, a process that unravels for type 6 out of that. Yeah, so we call them the loyalist because they are loyal people and again, expect that loyalty from those in their environment, family and friends groups. Loyal skeptic, in that in addition to the loyalty requirement, these are people that are also skeptical. I tend to think of the loyal skeptic, and I don't use that phrase too often, but I tend to think that title speaks more to the potential of a shadow coming out for the 6. So they can be skeptical, which makes it very hard for them to land on a decision, which is a struggle for 6s. They do find it hard to land on decisions, and they can find it hard to be decisive. They're the people that will poll several people, kind of ask, what do you think? What do I don't know. What do you think? I kind of think this, but what do you think? That's where the wavering comes back and forth, and that indecisiveness. It stems from, I believe, and again, 6s out there, chime in. I believe we're taught and we teach that it comes from a root of anxiety in the 6, and I would agree with that. But I think it's also, and this is where I'd love to hear from you guys. I think it also has to do with insecurity in the 6. So that there's this, if I take this poll and 5 out of 6 people say, XYZ, and that's kind of what I think, well, then it's safe. That's the other thing with 6s, they like to be safe. So they're going to make the decision that seems safe based on safety. Safety in numbers would be a real six expression. So the more people that come up with the same approach to something that looks and feels safe, the six is going to probably go along with that. And that skeptical nature, the loyal skeptic, again, going back to that name for the six, um, they um, they can be untrusting. So it kind of speaks to, you think of the six as being trustworthy, but when they kind of go down a bad rabbit hole, they become untrusting. And that's untrusting of everyone around them, situation around them, things that are happening, changes that may be happening for them, people coming and going into their lives. There's I don't know if I should trust that person. They're not in my tribe. They have, they're new. So there can be some untrusting energy with a six. And again, I'm going to get back to that word confidence. They kind of lack confidence, and that's where they go back to polling the people that they do trust or who they believe are trustworthy, and that's how they come to their decisions. But they don't come from those decisions from a place of confidence. I'm going to come back to that word. So if you do lead with six, let me know what you think of that word, because that's a word that I do land on a lot, with six. I think that lack of, I believe it's a lack of confidence that rides underneath the anxiety, the free floating anxiety of the six. So why did I pick type six right now? So we're in Sagittarius season. The sun just moved into Sagittarius, and we are experiencing, as of today, the 25th, a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius as well. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and we think of Jupiter as being expansive and joyful. And one of the greatest qualities is deep faith. Sagittarians have just deep faith, positivity. I think of, in some ways, I think of Sagittarius overlapping Enneagram 7. So if you're a six, or a six, you know that next door to the six is the 7, right? So sixes can have a 7 wing. Sevens can also have a 6 wing. So I think this could potentially speak to both types, but I think it speaks to this season, speaks to six a little more than 7, but sevens, you're definitely in the club here. And I'm gonna actually speak to a couple of other types that are going to be in this mix because of Enneagram connections, let's call them. So Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. What does that offer us? Retrogrades give us a chance to kind of go back and revisit things that maybe we didn't get right previously, where our work can be done, where our growth point. So, I talk about the growth point in the Enneagram, and there's a growth point in astrology too. So retrogrades give you the opportunity to glance back, review, and see where, how you can revisit something and grow from it and learn from it, right? So Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, which is a Jupiterian sign, which is based, not based, but, highly related to faith and the journey of faith. It's there to teach us how we can look back and let go and trust. Another way of saying that is be faithful, or deepen our faith. So one of the things that I say about the six is their journey is the journey of faith. So you can say it's the journey out of mistrust, it's the journey out of fear, it's the journey out of wavering between things, indecisiveness. It's the journey out of all of those things, and it's the journey into faith, and that's so Jupiterian. And we don't think of six as Jupiterian. We don't think of six as being expansive. That's what we usually look to the 7 for. But the journey of faith piece, because this is a Mercury retrograde and it is mercurial, so sixes are head types, right? 5, 6, and 7. They live up here. So, and Mercury is all about the mind, right? It's mercurial sign. It's all mental energy, thinking, right? So sixes are our thinkers, right? And they're thinking about how do we stay safe? How do I make the best decision? Did I make the right decision? Who do I talk to make the right decision? These are all mercurial conversations that a retrograde really gives us the opportunity to dive into for the next few weeks. So that's why I did isolate six more than seven for this particular episode. Um, and so I also want to point out that if you're an Enneagram six with placements in Libra, I'm going to start with Libra first um, because of the scales. I think of Libra and sixes. I just think of sixes holding the scales, scales of justice. Which way are we leaning toward? How are we basing our decisions? Are we leaning this way? Are we leaning that way? How many people did we poll? Oh, maybe the scale is going to go that way, right? So they're balancing. Six seeks to balance, usually information processing through the mind. So it's usually a mental process for six. So I do think of Libra and the scales for Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius and type 6. I think of that as being a similar pulse. But the two mercurial signs, so if you're a Libra, you may be experiencing this a little louder than other people. If you're a Libra who's a six, or you have what I'm going to call in the Enneagram six placements, which we don't use that word in the Enneagram, but I'm going to use it. So if you lead with six, if you have a wing to six, if you have a line to six, I'm referring to that loosely as a six placement in the Enneagram. It's not a term, but it's Maria's term. So yeah, so if you have that going on with with your six or any of those related numbers, and Libra in your charts, you may feel this retrograde a little more than let's say somebody who, has Aries in Leo or something like that. Um, so um, so yeah, so the other two signs would be Virgo and Gemini. So if you have placements in your natal chart in Virgo or Gemini, because they are mercurial, both of them are ruled by Mercury, I would venture a guess that you're going to feel this retrograde in a little more pronounced way, and you'll be able to, I don't even want to say feel the retrograde, but be able to experience the retrograde and the growth of the retrograde, and where can I let go and learn how to trust. So again, if you have strong Libra, if you have strong Virgo, strong Gemini, um, those opportunities to revisit your faith um, likely will be percolating up for you in the next few weeks. So again, that starts today. So another thing I do want to mention, so I talked about, Libra, Virgo, Gemini, and some of you might have different experiences in your chart. So again, put those into the comments, because this whole Enneagram overlap with astrology is not a hard and fast rule. Nobody's written books on this. One is nine, divided by nine, the other is divided by 12, right? So it's not an equal match. Okay. This is where do we pull threads, and how can we maybe knit these threads together to gain a greater understanding of ourselves as individuals doing the work. Okay. So six, we already talked about the wing, to seven on one side and to five on the other. So if you're a six with one of those wings, you know, consider how you're experiencing this. I'm going to call it a challenge to your journey of faith, or revisiting your journey of faith. Are you leaning into your seven as a six? Are you leaning into your five as a six? By the same token, it's the way I look at the Enneagram, I look at it almost like a labyrinth. Where do you enter, right? So you enter if you lead with six, you enter with your six. However, five's next door. Okay. So fives can be experiencing this too. Okay, we're focusing on the 6 today, but fives can be experiencing this too. It would be a 5 with a 6 wing, most likely, more than a 5 with a 4 wing. Again, five's a head type, right? The other side of 6, the 7, another head type. So same thing. If you lead with a 7 and you have a strong 6 wing, you may be experiencing this opportunity. I would bet that you would be as a 7, actually, because you do have a natural Jupiterian flair, and this is in Sagittarius, this retrograde. So, yeah, consider that if you're either a 6, 5, or a 7, or if you're one of those wings with a 6, or vice versa with one of the other numbers. But the other way you can enter into this quote labyrinth of the Enneagram is through your lines, right? So 6 has a line to 3, 6 also has a line to 9. Okay, so nines may want to look at this too. We don't think of nines as being Jupiterian, but nines have access to a Jupiterian energy through their, through their Enneagram. So again, it's how do you step into this dance of the Enneagram? I think threes actually are pretty Jupiterian too, because they're so focused on goals and they are expansive in their thinking, right? So yeah, when you're entering into that triangle of the 6 3 9, there's some Jupiter happening in there, so either you lead with any of those numbers, the 3 6 9, or you're a 6 that goes to those numbers, right? So see where the steps of your dance. This is kind of what I'm saying. See where the steps of your dance are right now through the Enneagram, given the astrology for the next few weeks in this Mercury retrograde. For me, the way I teach the Enneagram is filled with energy and breath and openness and expansiveness. You're not just your number. I when I work with people in session in spiritual direction, I never suggest that your number is who you are and the only thing you have to work with. Now, I do know some people that work that way and they're pretty, they're just pretty focused on those rules in the Enneagram. And I'm kind of one that wants to look at the Enneagram as a flat surface that we can now pull apart into a three-dimensional, which is actually how it was originally viewed in ancient times. If you've ever seen that model of yin and yang where it's brought out into this 3D, spinning ball, right? The Enneagram's technically that. We don't talk about it that way, but it has movement in it. It has breath, and the movement. I think we have specks of sand of each type. And some of those specks are so small that we can't even relate to them, right? So we know we lead with one. We know we have a wing to one or the other, and we're going to relate to that one. And the lines are easy. But I think they're just specks of sand of all 9 types in us. And some are just like on the back of a shelf somewhere. It's like we don't have easy access to it, but we have remnants, we have fragments of the divine, and all 9 together is the completion of the divine. So we may not be able to easily utilize that energy, but something I'm going to say in our DNA understands it. On some level, there's always a low resonance, I think, of all 9. So long story short, what I'm trying to say there is whether you're not any of the numbers that I just threw out, we can all learn from them because there's not one of us that couldn't use the opportunity right now to work on your journey of faith. It's going to look different for all 9 types, right? It's definitely going to look different. But for the 6, it's going to look very much like what I've described here. So yeah, so if you're a 3, if you're a 6, definitely look at this in the context of your journey of faith. Look at it as it relates to your natal chart, your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising. See if any of those signs are in play for you, Libra, Virgo, Gemini, and let me know if any of the other ones are speaking to you through this lens of the Enneagram and type 6 and faith. And let me see if there's anything else that I think that covers everything that I have in here for content today. What I do want to go back and just revisit is to remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share all the housekeeping things we already talked about. If you would like to work with me, I'll put all this in the show notes, mariamandarino.com. There's a link there at the top to schedule. It's in the upper right corner. You can schedule a free discovery call with me. I encourage people to do that before they actually schedule a session with me. Or you can schedule an astrological chart with me. So the discovery call is more for spiritual direction or Enneagram work because that's a little more involved. And you're certainly welcome to do a discovery call for the astrology as well, but it's usually pretty silly to do that because I don't need that much information to do your chart. So, but you're welcome to. So the discovery call is usually, as I said, for spiritual direction and for Enneagram typing. It takes about a half hour. Most people are like 20 minutes to a half hour, and we kind of just kick some questions around. You can ask me questions. I ask you a couple of questions, and we just kind of see if we're a good fit, if we're on the same page philosophically about, what I do, because not everybody is. So it's a good opportunity. It's for free of charge to just kind of see if we mesh well together. Then from there, we schedule the spiritual direction meeting, which is my meetings are 75 minutes long. It's a little longer than the average. And the reason I do that is to give you a little cushioning time, however you need that to work. So during COVID, what that looked like was people needed bookends of what I'm going to call contemplative time. Sometimes it would be a reading, sometimes it would just be silence, sometimes it would be, meditation for 5 minutes or so, and then we do the same thing at the end. Sometimes I'd read a poem. It really depends on what the person needs. More often than not, in the 4 years that have unfolded, people just jump in. So it's a 75-minute treatment. However you want to use those 75 minutes is kind of up to your needs. So that's what spiritual direction is structured like. We meet about once a month with most people. Those meetings are either on Friday or Saturday right now. That's how they're scheduled. They are virtual. And not everyone knows what spiritual direction is. So it's kind of a spiritual coaching. It's not counseling. It's finding where your experience of divinity, some people call it God, some people call it the universe, where your experience of the divine is moving through your life, where it's speaking to you, where you're being called. Maybe you're in a transition that's new to you and you want to connect at a deeper level with your spirituality. Spiritual direction is perfect for that kind of stuff. So new life stages, moving to a new place, new job, or just wanting to seek out a new job and not knowing, wanting to know yourself better at a spiritual level to make the right choices going forward in something like a job change or a vocation change. So it's a real common one for people to go into spiritual direction with. Divorce, retirement, grief, loss, and anything like that is where you want to have a deeper understanding of your spiritual self, and where your spiritual growth and potential is. Another word that I want to point out, director. I don't direct anything. The word actually comes from the monastic tradition, Christian monastic tradition, where it's said that there are three chairs in the room. There's the one that the directee or the client sits in. There's the one that I sit in, and then there's a third chair, which is said to be the chair where the spirit sits in the conversation. So there's this energy of divinity that weaves into the conversation. So it's more of a sacred conversation. So that's why it's unlike counseling. But it has it can be a wonderful complement. Let me put it that way. It can be a wonderful complement to counseling where most people don't get to talk about their spiritual, philosophical ideas, and really to stretch with those and try them on and see how they fit, new ideas, new contexts for your spirituality. That's kind of what we do. And it is called midwifery of the soul, which is one of my favorite expressions for spiritual direction. And I do think it's what we do. We do midwife your soul, as you're going through, transitions and transitional, stages of life, normal and natural stages that, we need extra support for. So yeah, that's what spiritual direction is. With regard to the Enneagram, if you don't know your Enneagram type or you've been kind of floundering around, sixes are notorious for that, since this was the episode for the six. Sixes can sometimes find it hard to make that decision about their type, but all types fall into this. I'm not a six. I lead with five, and I went through this myself for the longest time. I was sure I was a one, and I was incredibly wrong. But but I still learned from being a one. But being professionally typed, really can be very helpful. And I do encourage it. So if you do typing with me, again, I would encourage doing the discovery call first. Just make sure you want to do typing with me. And that is a 2-session, meeting the way I do it. And they're set up about a week apart. So that's how that works. Again, if you're interested in doing your astrological chart, I have that available online as well. I'd be happy to do that with you. And before I close for the day, there will be another link, that I will, oh, and I should mention, I didn't mention that at all today. I am also an acupuncturist. I work in the Phoenix Valley, the northwest section of the valley. So if you are local to Phoenix, or if you're planning on visiting Phoenix, I would say if you're planning on visiting at this time of year, it's late fall going into, winter, it gets really busy at this time of year. So if you're planning on visiting and you do want to see me for a more spiritually based acupuncture, which is what I do, I do all the other stuff too. I do treat pain, but the focus of my practice is pretty much on spiritually based acupuncture. So if you want to do that, you can schedule online as well. Schedule the new patient, visit for that. That's a 90-minute visit. So again, if you're local or you're planning on visiting, if you're planning on visiting, just please schedule out, because I am a one-woman show, so I don't run more than one room. So when I'm booked out, I'm booked out. All right. The only other thing I do want to add is, a request on behalf of a friend of mine who, in about a week or so, is going to be having some pretty major surgery. Her name is Dawn Rosiello, and I'm going to have a link, to her, GoFundMe page in my show notes. Dawn is about to have a double mastectomy, and she has a tremendous team, ready, to support her through that. Dawn and I actually know each other through our training in the Bach flower, system. We both became Bach flower practitioners together. She is a wonderful woman. She's a single mom, Bach flower practitioner. She does a few other things as well, and she believes deeply in natural medicine and energy medicine. And, being in the world that we're in, her insurance does not cover those things for her, post-surgical care. So she does have a GoFundMe page to support her through that. So if you're inclined, if you find value in this channel, in the work that I do here, if you would be kind enough to make a donation, on behalf of my friend and colleague, Dawn Rosiello, I would, be very grateful, and I know she would be as well. So again, that information will be in the show notes. So Dawn, if you're watching this, love you, wish you the very best. I know you've got this. And thank you all for being here. Let me know what your journey of faith is like right now on your, Mercury retrograde through Sagittarius, particularly if you're a six, and whatever number you are, just drop a comment. I'd be interested to hear how you're experiencing this. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.